Hello, everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. We are going through the 7 signs of Jesus, and in the previous video, we went over Jesus' 4th sign. In case you missed it, I'll leave a link for you to watch. Today, we're going to go over Jesus' 5th sign, which is when he walks on water. Today's miracle might seem out of place when you look at John chapter 6, because John chapter 6 mainly focuses on the miracle of Jesus feeding the crowd with bread and fish. But then in the middle of this chapter, that talks about a miracle Jesus performs for only his disciples. But notice the contrast with how the disciples respond to this miracle versus how the crowds responded to Jesus' miracle last time. And those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." What was it about Jesus walking on water as opposed to giving bread and fish that convinced them that he was God? Well, let's find out. A mob is starting to swell, and they want to make Jesus their political king so that he can break the chains of slavery in Rome. Matthew and Mark both tell us that Jesus told his disciples to get into a boat and to row across the Sea of Galilee. Why did Jesus want his disciples to leave? It's because Jesus doesn't want his disciples to start thinking like the crowds. And so Jesus tells them that he'll meet them on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and the disciples start rowing. We know that this happens during the evening time. Now, according to the Jewish clock, there was 2 evenings. The first evening was from 3 to 6 o'clock p.m. This was when Jesus was feeding the crowds. But the second evening is 6 o'clock to sunset, and this is when Jesus' disciples are starting to row. As they begin their 7-mile journey across the Sea of Galilee, a strong wind started to blow, and the waves start getting out of control. Now, west of the Sea of Galilee is a valley, and warm air will come from this valley to the sea. The Sea of Galilee was 682 feet below sea level. So the cool air from the Sea of Galilee, when mixing with the warm air from this valley, will often create a funnel of wind. And this funnel of wind could get so strong that it can capsize fishing boats. This is why fishermen avoided fishing at night on the Sea of Galilee. Keep in mind that many of these disciples were fishermen. So they're not overreacting to a small storm. They understood just how serious this storm has become. They knew that their boat can capsize at any moment and that they could drown and die. So they start to panic. They start rowing with every fiber of their muscle, straining at the oars. But we see that this funnel of wind pushes them off course. How do we know this? Matthew tells us in Matthew 14:25 that Jesus will come to them during the 4th watch. This would have been between 3 to 6 a.m. This tells us that the disciples were rowing for almost 12 hours by the time Jesus arrives, and yet they have only gone 3 to 4 miles by this point. They're rowing in circles, trying not to drown, panicking for their lives, and they've been going at this for many hours. Now the scene changes and Jesus arrives. Jesus begins walking on the water towards the disciples' boat. The question is, why? Well, the first reason why Jesus walks on water is to show that he is sovereign. During this time, people feared the sea because it was unpredictable. Some of us even today might fear the water. Water makes up about 70% of the earth, but we have only explored about 5% of the ocean. This leaves a lot of things unknown. This is why throughout the Old Testament, stormy waters was a picture of God's judgment. For example, he split the Red Sea to deliver Israel, but then used the Red Sea to collapse on the Egyptian army and kill them. So when Jesus walks on water, keep in mind he's walking on stormy waters, on life-threatening waters. But he's showing that he is sovereign and has power over creation to the point that he can walk on these unpredictable waters. The second reason why Jesus walks on water is to show that he is divine. The picture of Jesus walking on water is his way of wearing a jacket with Old Testament passages that points to his divinity. Anybody familiar with the Old Testament would have known what Jesus was doing by walking on water. They would have seen a tapestry of passages that all point to God. When describing God, Job chapter 9 verse 8 says this, "Who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea." Psalm 77:6 adds this, "When the waters saw you, O God, when the waters saw you, they were afraid. Indeed, the deep trembled." Then in verse 19, it says this, "Your way was through the sea, your path through the great waters, yet your footprints were unseen." One of the ways that God is described is that the waters tremble at his presence, and that he can walk on water without leaving any footprints. Only God can control the waters. So when Jesus walks on water, it's as if he is a color movie of the black and white Old Testament passages. He is a living and breathing picture of all these Old Testament passages that describe God. But there is a final thread that completes this tapestry, and it is the words that come out of Jesus' mouth. Look at what he says as he approaches the boat. It is I. Now in the Greek, this is literally I am. And when Jesus says I am, that should have sent flashing lights in the disciples' head, thinking back to Exodus chapter 3 verse 14, when God identified himself as I am to Moses. When Jesus says I am, he is giving himself the name of God. And so the same God who split the Red Sea is the same God who is walking on the waters towards the disciples. That is all packaged in with the simple phrase, I am. But there's a final reason why Jesus walks on water, and that is to show that he is our Savior. Whenever God shows up in the Old Testament, people will often respond with fear. For example, when Isaiah saw a vision of God, look at how he reacted. Woe is me. When Moses saw God, he reacted this way, and Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. When people saw God, they realized how sinful they were, and they would turn away and be afraid. But something different happens in this miracle. After Jesus says, I am, he tells his disciples to have no fear. If the disciples are in the presence of God, shouldn't they respond with fear? Why should they not have fear? It's because of what Jesus will do next. When he enters the boat, it says that they immediately reached the shore, which was about 3 miles away. Jesus does a mini miracle within this sign where he immediately saves his disciples with this presence. This should have reminded the disciples of Psalm 107. Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and he delivered them from their distress. He made the storm be still, and the waves of the sea were hushed. Then they were glad that the waters were quiet, and he brought them to their desired haven. This is what this miracle points to. It points to who Jesus is. Jesus is not only our holy God who has power over the waters and can walk on it, but also Jesus is our Savior who gets in the boat with us to save us from death. This is why when we see God's presence in Jesus, we should not fear. For Jesus did not come into the world to condemn it, but to save it. If you found this video helpful, please like it and share it with a friend. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notifications so that you will know when the next video comes out next Friday about the next sign. Until next time, see you.